sure we don't screw up the slides. That would be late presentation. All right, Cincinnati Urban Deer Advocates. It's a state of Ohio certified nonprofit. It's been created for two purposes. One, to support non-lethal control of our deer populations wherever there is a clear problem. The second is we want a restoration of our no public hunting ordinances. These goals will enable us to take back our parks and preserves 365 days a year. There are parks. We should be able to go into them every day. We go to those parks, many of us, we seek peace, tranquility, and many other reasons we go to just escape from what we're dealing with in our day-to-day busy lives. What is very traumatic is to go in these parks wanting to sort of relate to the birds, the squirrels, whatever you like to do. And there you see the dead deer, the arrows, the pools of blood, the stench of death. That ruins your day. Now, there are more effective and more humane approaches. They're now available to address our deer population problems and other species as well. They're being used worldwide and in a lot of places in the United States. And we are not going to have time to go into all those studies. There have been various birth control products approved by the federal government, not just one, more than one. And they've been approved specifically for urban deer because they recognize these tame, semi-tame deer in our urban communities, which many of us embrace, are very different than that deer running around on the countryside. All right, we're going to show you a video, and then you're going to get contradictory information, but we brought some studies to back up what we say too. So, anyway, go ahead.
We'll try. Audio is going to be from my laptop, so we'll see how this sounds.
Our Cincinnati parks we all enjoy are closed several fall and winter months each year. The city uses dozens of bow hunters in an attempt to control the deer population. Park closed signs are placed at the trailheads, but people often enter the park from off-trail, and there are noted instances of citizens entering the kill zones. In fact, during a recent WKRC interview with a city-hired hunter, a woman and 3 small children entered his kill zone in that moment. The hunter remarked, "This is, quote, fairly common." Besides a potential tragic accidental injury or death to an adult or child, the city is vulnerable to a lawsuit. And as the data shows in city after city, hunting is ineffective in the long term. Why? Because when their numbers are reduced, deer are biologically programmed to increase reproduction. Hunting just creates a vicious cycle. Speaking of vicious, for every clean kill of a deer, another, though hit, will escape. In pain, frightened, and bleeding out, they will lurch into roads, onto residents' yards, or just hide until death, which can take weeks. Their fawns are left alone, unprotected, and vulnerable to coyotes. There is a solution, biologically effective, cost-effective, and humane. It's called immunocontraception. Think of it as a hormone dart. It's EPA approved and already successful in use across the country. Think of having our parks open all year long for us to safely enjoy, with our deer population humanely controlled. Let's stop the dangerous and ineffective bow hunting in our parks and join other progressive cities trialing immunocontraception for better, more humane results.
We also wrote the literature to report of bow hunting. There are over 20 studies. They weren't conducted by anti-bow hunting people or humane groups. They were mostly conducted by state wildlife departments. Why? The wounding rate is an issue. And bow hunters, I've talked to them personally, they know it's a problem. All right, you can argue about whether it's 50%, 30%, or 20%, but even with the modern equipment, there was a study I looked at in 2008, they all were very good at hitting the bullseye. They had the proficiency testing. They even had grid searches, assistance to help them. And again, 162 deer out of 900 were never found, a very highly controlled study. It's just a problem. But what I'd rather spend more time on, and I suggest you read it yourself, let's move on. I guess, all right. I am the founder, yeah, all right, once you know who I am, I actually am the founder and the coordinator for Cincinnati Urban Deer Advocates, which is a growing group, and I'm a retired research scientist, so given my background, I'm able to bring some things to the table that can be very helpful with this particular issue. Interesting enough, I'm also the co-founder and the director of a community cat organization called Neighborhood Cat Helpers. And I actually go into communities all throughout Cincinnati. That's how I began to pick up on the deer issues, because people are telling me about their deer. And you'd be amazed where our deer is living. I was. And they're not primarily hanging in all parks as much as you're being led to believe, but that's a whole other story. All right, bow hunting, there are safety issues. It is ineffective, okay? And we're gonna talk a little bit more on the ineffectiveness. You have alternates now. You have choices, which you didn't have 20 years ago, but you got them now. The big one is immunocontraceptive. It's effective, it's humane. Call to action. There are people here who want to get a Mount Washington community going. We'll be happy to help support them as we are supporting other people in other park situations with information that they need to help move themselves forward. Then we're going to open it up for questions. Safety issues. The overall, what Jim said is true. Overall, the deer vehicle accidents in Hamilton County, I looked at that data too, Jim, they have declined, but we have individual issues, okay? And by the way, would anybody guess one reason why that? Oh, you're not supposed to take questions. I'll tell you. All right, this comes straight from the head of the Department of Wildlife. One reason why our deer vehicle accidents are declining. All those sound walls you put up. Believe it or not, that's what he said. Now, does hunting trigger deer vehicle accidents? Yes. A massive study was done by Erie Insurance Company in Pennsylvania. Massive. What they found in that fall, right around October, November, December, there is a double spike in deer vehicle accidents. The one spike directly relates to hunting season, especially that first weekend when everybody's out there. And the second relates to the rut season. And they have clearly shown that. Other insurance companies know that too. Do we have issues here? Oh, you bet we do. Mount Airy. How many people would have heard about the deer running around with the arrows shot by a Mount Airy bow hunter up and down Coleraine? The motorists were badly traumatized. All right, that could have been a very bad accident. We know of deer vehicle accidents that happened at Drake Park, for example. Small park, encased, I-71, 70 miles an hour, Red Bank, Woodford, and they're hunting close enough to chase those deer out into the street. Residents have seen it. Opening day, 2 years in a row, deer vehicle accidents, one on I-71, one in Red Bank, right outside those parks. And there was a double accident this year, a few days in, and we had reason to believe hunters were hunting there. So these are issues, they are real, and other people have reported too. One policeman said he saw a deer with an arrow in him run out the street and slam right into a car. I have that in writing. People, pets at risk from stray arrows. The potential is there. We don't know how many close calls there were because none of this is going to be reported. So we don't know here. The only thing I can tell you, there was a dog that was killed in Amberley Village by a bow hunter, probably a poacher, and it was veterinary confirmed. Amberley Village has its own killing program, which is a little bit different from the parks. But it is a risk, and if you look at the literature, you will see the incidents there. Decomposing deer carcasses, that's a big one for us. The hunter can do whatever he wants with that deer, whatever he wants. The joggers finally got back into Oak Park. The bow hunters finally left. First thing they ran into was an overpowering stench. And they looked over where that yellow arrow was. Well, naturally, you're going to go see what died. That's what they found, a doe, an agonized doe. All right? I can show you many pictures, many more gross than that. This is not what we want to be finding in our parks. Ineffective. This is really what I want you to really think about. The others are very repulsive, very upsetting, but I really want you to think about this point. Here's an expert. Quote, "You cannot call bow hunting a population control measure. It is recreational pursuit. We do not advocate bow hunting when the objective is controlling the population." There's an expert. I can read you 24 more quotes from other experts, including experts who have expertise in wildlife population control, and they will all tell you the same thing. This is not what you do if you're trying to get your population down. Stanberry Park. Well, let's take a look at Stanberry Park. Oh, the colors changed. That's okay. All right. As Joan was telling you, they do a flyover once a year. It's infrared, takes a picture, and they count the bright spots, okay? They don't see the deer. They count the bright spots. Agreed? Okay. All right. Now, this is park data, okay? They only do it one time, so basically that data is not going to be, anybody who's got a statistical background is going to kill them. They're just going to say, how could you ever make any decisions based on that? It's not statistically valid data. Agreed. All right. They weren't hunting from 2001 to 2011, okay? And we normally you do deer per square mile. People have a hard time relating to that. So we just put the raw numbers of deer. These totals are what's running around outside the park, as well as the ones inside the park. So these are not just deer hanging in the park. All right? So here you are for 2011. That's what your deer population was running at without hunting. All right, now you start hunting. Now because these deer are semi-tame, you go in that first year, hunters may actually whack out a whole bunch of them. That's very possible. Then your population may dip a little bit, but then of course, look what we see happening. And look what we see happening. The red represents the deer kills. All right, deer aren't stupid. Target. And here's where I have a very strong disagreement with the park. They say you got to have 15 to 20 deer per square mile. That is absolutely erroneously false. In urban areas like this where you have your parks blended in with suburbs, as the experts have told me, you can have 40, 60, even 80 deer per square mile. And I'm going to read you an exact quote from Jeff Westerfield. He is the Ohio Division of Natural Resources, Division of Wildlife, the Assistant Wildlife Manager Supervisor, okay? So he's running around dealing with all these deer issues. What's the correct density? He says. How many deer should you have per square mile? He says, I'm going to tell you. I haven't a clue. Don't focus on deer density, his exact quote. That's the wrong thing. All right? This would only be about 3 deer that would be permitted to live here. That's extermination. But it's wrong. And you cannot use that as a basis for going in a park and decide you're going to massive kill deer. Next slide. Is that unique to Stanberry? No, it isn't. Look at all. Let's look at all park. 2000, all through here. There's kind of your deer numbers. Inside and outside the park, though. They add them together, not just inside. And then they did, sharpshooters can go in and wipe out a bunch of deer real quick. It'll cost you. But it doesn't fix the problem. Whoa, look what happened. Wildlife people will tell you there is a rebound effect. I can't tell you whether that's why that is. We know about the vacuum effect. We deal with that with community cats running around there all the time. What happens when you pull these out? Well, there comes Joe. Oh, look over here. That's real. We don't make that stuff up. All right, here are your kill numbers again in the red. So they were whacking them off, but dropping. And look what you see over here. Do you really get a significant drop in your population? Next slide. That's true for hogs. Again, there's just the deer purring along, doing their thing. Again, you go in for that kill and you're going to whack off a bunch of them the first time you go in. They're not used to being hunted. We haven't had hunting in this area in general. And then what happens is, oh my God, we can't get any of them. Then they took a break, and we messed this up a little bit. This should actually be a brown one. Sorry about that, Mark. I just caught it. But anyway, all right, so there you have your populations, okay? I think that speaks for itself, and most of your small parks, that's the exact situation that's going on. And the problem with the killing and the bow hunting, I don't want to give up my parks 4.5 months out of the year. I'm tired of it. I want to go in Drake Park, and I don't want to find dead deer. If you look at the report on hunting, there is a last page that summarizes why it's ineffective. We're not going to have time to go into that at great length, but I do want to get on to, next slide. Frankly, we don't have to do bow hunt. Immunocontraception. Everybody's going to say, what a strange word. Well, I'm telling you, a lot of people are learning this word real fast. Just call it birth control. Quote, it works. It works well. Dr. J. Kirkpatrick, Director of Science and Conservation Center, Billings, Montana. Here the guy is, all right? And this is being used around the world, even on free-roaming elephants in Africa. They fly over with a helicopter. They have a dart gun. There's the birth control and the dart, and they simply fire it into the rump. Next slide. There are many success stories now. This is no longer, what shall we say, experimental. We're going to get into some of this. Your state versus federal. As far as the federal goes, you can now use these products as management. The states are moving one by one. Success stories, we're going to talk about 2 of the older ones that are well established. There are a number of them out there. There are a number of birth control programs going on in the United States as we speak. And we've got to acknowledge Fort Thomas. Fire Island, New York. Contrary to what people said, they did not do the whole darn island. They went into areas like this, high density residential areas where you have a lot of mature plants that deer just come in and they do very well, okay? All right, that's always in your suburban area. You have a lot of food for them, they like hanging out, et cetera, and they were being overrun with deer. This is in square kilometer, but if you would do that square mile, this would be 160, way up here, okay? So Kirkpatrick went in, a couple others. This was a community-based program. Residents were taught dart guns, how to fire a dart into the rump of a deer. They didn't capture them. They didn't even bother identifying them. But you know what? You'd be amazed how many neighbors know what deer are in their yard, and they can tell you which one's which. So could my neighbors. They even name them. So they put the people, said, okay, let's get this population down. All right, there they go. You see a clear decline. Cut the population in half. Next slide. That's not unique. Dr. Rudberg, safety in numbers. There were about 600 deer on Fripp Island. Fripp Island was being overrun with deer. So they started treating them with the birth control product called PCP. The deer stopped having fawns, And the numbers dropped from 600 down to 300, and if they would have kept going, that number of deer would have fallen below the control. This is Hunting Island, which is their control, which they did nothing on. And this would have come right on down below that. Can you wipe out your deer population? In certain circumstances you can, but the beauty of this, if you don't want to wipe them out, which not too many people do, then you back off a little bit, or you don't do all of them. Ball Island, they're not doing all of them. They got a birth control program going there, okay? Breaking news. Our organization has been supporting Fort Thomas. They've had bow hunting for 10 years. They've had enough of it. They've had too many incidents. They got into it supposedly to lower deer vehicle accidents. They tracked their numbers. Deer vehicle accidents went up, and they linked it to the hunters, and they've had some incidents. You have deer collapsing on sidewalks with a bow hunter chasing behind them with a deer in it, an arrow in it, and kids coming out, "Mommy, what is this all about?" That was the last straw. They are now, and we will assist them. Their council, their Northern Council now, as they're stopping the bow hunting, they're going to do an immunocontraception, and that's to replace their bow hunting. Why is it humane? No painful deaths, no suffering, no negative effects on young deer, no negative effects on that unborn fawn, no negative effects on the environment or food chain. And again, people here are going to get together. I think they mentioned that sign-up sheet in the last slide. Questions whenever you want to fire.
All right. Thank you, Millie.
Wait, I just want to make sure that everybody knows the sign-up sheet is not in support. We are coming up with our own plan. We are not saying that Millie's way is the right way, necessarily Jim's. I want to make sure everybody is very aware of that. This is what we as a group are going to research and come up with. So I don't want everybody thinking, oh, this is, you're joining Millie's group. This is a Mount Washington group, and we are going to decide what's best for Stanford.
I'm sending around the sign-up sheet, so anybody wants to sign up